Hello, this is Amy Gilbert. I chose to do the instruction on written expression. The textbook says that the writing process requires the translation of thoughts into the written word. The translation of thoughts into the written word then requires two very distinct processes. That is text generation and transcription. Transcription is the process of putting language into written form through handwriting, or nowadays it's typically keyboarding, so that's forming letters or typing, and then spelling, encoding words correctly. Text generation is the process of creating ideas and expressing them, which would be word choice or sentence meanings, organization. And instruction improves when teachers identify whether a student's barrier is the generation or the text generation or the transcription. So if you know that your student is having an issue with something and you're just not sure, understanding which part that they're having a difficulty with can help you pinpoint where they need more instruction and where they need more supports. So if you see that they're having a hard time generating ideas or coming up with the proper language, then it's probably a text generation issue. But if they're having a hard time with their mechanics or their production, then it could be a transcription issue. Program considering number 1. Writing draws on prior knowledge. As with any other instruction, any other curriculum, any other setting in education at all, you're going to draw on prior knowledge. Writing is no different. Writing depends on students' earlier experiences in listening, speaking, reading, and comprehension. Difficulties in these areas can be reflected or even magnified. So if you have a student who let's say in elementary school, they have an issue with comprehension, or they have an issue with listening, that can continue on throughout their educational years, but that can also be magnified in their educational years as well, and it can be reflected into their writing tests as they continue. Coherent writing requires the ability to think logically, comprehend what is being read and or heard, and organize the meaning of the writing clearly. Program consideration number 2, the content and the craft. Writing is a blend of the content and the craft. So that would need to be effective instruction. Effective instruction treats craft as a tool, but not as an end goal. So we want to see handwriting, typing, spelling, grammar, punctuation, sentence construction. Those are a tool to enhance a student's communication, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is to have writing skills that are going to be more beneficial for their future use. So we will prioritize the skills that are going to have a higher payoff in their future use, which would be potentially high school and possibly even post-secondary education. Program consideration number 3, writing as process and a product. Oftentimes schools emphasize the product, which would be the final draft or their end grade, but students also need to learn the process to reach the product. A key concept is the working draft. I think we all can benefit from the working draft, and students are no different. Writing will improve through the drafting and the revising and the editing over time. So teaching students how to do a working draft effectively early on in education is really going to give them a benefit as they move into higher education. Strong writing instruction builds routines that make the process visible and repeatable. Programming consideration number 4, writing as communication and personal expression. This is my favorite. I think it's important for us as educators, to understand that writing is academic, but it is not only academic. It can also be a vehicle for expression. Students can use writing to communicate their feelings, attitudes, experiences, identity, perspectives. When I was in middle school, writing gave me an outlet to, we all know middle school is a difficult time, and I felt ways that nobody else in the whole entire world felt. So writing gave me that outlet to be able to put the pen to paper and to be able to get my feelings out there. And I think that's beneficial for me as an educator to remember to give my students that opportunity to be able to experience that as well. It says here, I put provide writing opportunities that are meaningful, not only compliance driven. I remember I had in middle school, I had I think 7th grade year, I had a teacher who would always give us writing prompts. We would have a writing prompt of the day, and it was things that it wasn't really anything like this says compliance driven. It was more so things that we needed to get off our hearts or needed to get off our chest. I remember one of the prompts was a song that brings back a memory. And that one was a really big one. I remember that one because it was, the song made me think of my grandmother who had passed. So I think giving students those writing opportunities that are meaningful is going to build a connection to where they can enjoy writing and not just feel like they have to write. I think that is really going to build that connection to where they don't dislike writing. Program consideration number 5, narrative and expository writing. Comprehensive programs address multiple forms, so that would be narrative writing, expository writing, informative writing, persuasive, and especially in secondary settings. Teachers should evaluate the standards and the current skill and the future needs to choose the most beneficial writing targets. Why writing is so challenging, especially for struggling learners. Writing is an orchestration of many cognitive processes at once. Students must manage the writing environment and constraints of the topic or the task. They have to self-regulate processes like planning, monitoring, evaluating, drafting, revising. They have to have multiple types of knowledge, for example, the topic and the genre, the linguistic or semantic knowledge. They also have to have foundational skills, such as their handwriting skills or the typing skills. They also have to have knowledge of, or foundational skills of spelling and sentence construction. So understanding that students, it's not just that we're asking them to write, it's that we're asking them to do all of these multiple processes and perform all of these skills and apply all of this knowledge all at once. So understanding, as educators, understanding that the complexity of this is a lot for our students. When we understand that, I think we can maybe step back and see why this can be so difficult for all students, especially for students with disabilities. Assessment. It matters why and when we should assess writing. Teachers need assessment to determine a learner's strengths and deficits, potential for growth with instruction, and best instructional targets. Writing success is linked to school outcomes and post-secondary readiness, so assessment should drive instruction and not just grading. I think we talked on that earlier. I think that's really important for us to remember, that the end goal is not just to give a grade. It's to drive the instruction so that we are giving our students the best possible future that we can. Effective practice includes initial assessment to guide planning and ongoing analysis to adjust instruction over time. Informal assessment primary attention for written expression. Informal assessment, I'm so sorry. Informal assessment is essential because formal tools cannot fully capture the scope of writing. The key goal here is to analyze real writing samples frequently and systematically. Effective informal assessment is curriculum-driven, comprehensive across multiple dimensions of writing, and based on multiple data sources such as drafts, conferences, quick writes, and observations. There are formal writing assessments. It's important for us as educators to remember that we should use formal measures, but we should not treat them as the full picture of writing competence. Formal tests can provide structured baseline data and related on writing and related language skills. Examples include these over here. I'm not sure how you would go about the TOEL, the TOEL 4, the OWLS 2. But these, as you can see here, these all test and assess different types of written expression, different aspects of written expression. A multi-component model, the 3 stages of writing. Writing can be taught as a sequence of stages that guide instruction. So we have the 3 stages: pre-writing, writing or drafting, and post-writing. So in pre-writing, we would plan, we would set a goal, we would organize, we would generate our ideas, and we would understand and really hone in on our audience or our purpose. For the writing and drafting stage, we would turn our ideas into sentences or paragraphs, and we would balance the content and the craft. And for the post-writing, we would revise and edit and make any changes that we need. Pre-writing, key instructional priorities. Pre-writing includes what happens before drafting. The input or stimulation, experiences from reading, listening, media, and discussion. Motivation, purpose, and audience. So we would clarify what the writing is meant to do and who it is for. Teachers should not assume that students already have an adequate experience for ideation, the desire to communicate in writing, or the understanding of audience or purpose. Environment, time, motivation, and stimulation are pre-writing supports. So we need to make sure that we are giving our students adequate time to write to build the competence that they need. We also need to give them motivation, sometimes, adolescents especially, but individuals with disabilities may benefit from having reward systems to complement internal motivation. Also stimulation, discussion, brainstorming, topic building experiences. Students write poorly about what they don't know. So what that should have, I typed that in a strange way, but what that should have said is if a student doesn't know what they're writing about, then they will not write well, is what that should have meant there. Positive writing environment features may include a print-rich room and accessible writing materials, word lists or word walls, daily writing opportunities, regular teacher/student conferences showcasing student writing, collaboration and peer sharing, and flexible and comfortable writing spaces. Big picture. What writing and drafting includes. The writing or drafting stage blends content and craft when in written language. Key considerations during drafting includes vocabulary choice, sentence form, paragraph sense, sequencing of ideas, consistency, clarity, and relevance. Common challenges for many students include developing appropriate content, organization, goal setting, and mechanical skills like spelling or punctuation, as well as difficulty